Okay, so I thought I'd go ahead and make a little video here. For the past couple of years, some people have been asking me from time to time whether there is a difference in what type of wood you're using in guitars and all that kind of shit, and in which way it's making the sound of coming out of the guitar difference depending on what type of wood it is. Because back in the days, perhaps, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I actually built some electric guitars. I think I built 4 or 5 of them, perhaps. And on my YouTube channel, there is a few building videos. One, I'm building an Explorer model. So I thought we'd go ahead and try to clear some things out here. The tone that actually is coming from the output of your guitar does not really have to do with what type of wood it is in the guitar itself. Most people think that, oh, you're using mahogany or some fancy, very expensive type of wood. Well, I don't think that is a very, very big difference what type of wood you're using, because what is actually something to point out when it comes to what the tone that is coming out of the guitar, that's actually the length of the string. What type of bridge are you using? What type of pickups are you using? What type of if you're using a tremolo, what type of tremolo is it? And what type of knot you're using? Everything that I just told you, and in between, that is a big. That is something that absolutely is important depending on what type of tone you will get out of your guitar. The density of the guitar, of the wood itself, is actually something that a little bit can be important in this case as well. But I think in the long run, I think that all of you that is saying that is a huge difference in between what type of wood you're using in your guitar, I would probably say you're actually wrong, because there is, I mean, maybe a tiny little bit. You can, if you're good, if you can feel what type of wood it is, and you can kind of like hear the sustain or anything like that in the guitar, well, of course, I agree with you. But the tone, the audio, the tone that is coming from the output of your guitar jack, that is basically almost 100% depending on what type of hardware and pickups you're using. Not very much about what type of wood you're using, what type of wood there is in your guitar. Of course, I have to point out that the sustain itself makes the string vibrate a little bit different, so that is something that has a lot to do with what type of neck joint you have. Something that is clearly very good when it comes to sustain is actually the glued in neck, kind of like the Gibson Les Paul, and mainly almost all Gibsons, and of course the neck through. You can neck through guitars is mostly kind of like Schecter's. I know Ibanez using neck through, and all these kind of, I know ESP also uses neck through. That means the neck is one piece all through the guitar body. But when it comes to the kind of like Les Paul, Gibson type of glued in neck, which means the guitar body and the neck is actually two different pieces. The heel of the neck is actually about this long, that goes in the is glued in the body itself that creates the classic, very classic Gibson neck joint. Let me go ahead and show you. So here I have my Gibson Les Paul Standard 2012 model, where the year doesn't really matter because this neck joint right here is actually been around since 1955 actually. During the years, Les Pauls have been mostly, you know, even in the 70s, they were made out of plywood and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, this is the very classical neck joint right there. This is a glued in neck right here, and this type of neck joint actually make a very good amount of sustain during depending on the string vibrating. So it's actually, it matters what kind of neck joint you have as well. So if you're having a glued in neck or a neck through body, and to addition of that you also have string through body, I would say that you have a guitar with a big amount of sustain in there. If your strings are fresh, that will say. Because the string is also very important that it is fresh and it's not full of DNA from your own skin and that kind of stuff, because the string is actually round wounded so that it can make a good tone and make a resonance through the whole guitar body. And with a good amount of sustain in there, that's actually what creates sustain and all that kind of stuff. You kind of like feedback, you know, that kind of stuff. So when it comes to what type of sound you got from your guitar, actually I can go ahead and tell you that in most cases it's mostly what type of pickups you're using. Whether they could be active EMGs, passive EMGs, Seymour Duncan actives, passive Seymour Duncans. There is thousands different of pickups out there. A lot of people like active pickups, a lot of people like passive pickups. I mean, what's right for me is absolutely maybe not the right for you. So I suggest that if I'm choosing the active EMGs, don't try to make a fool out of me and telling me that is some kind of crap, because that would be just stupid. Let me like what I like and I will let you like what you like, okay? So, but when it comes to the tone of your guitar, most of the times it's all about what type of pickups you are using. So whether you have a pickup with a high output, let's say 14, 15K up to 20K or something like that, that will make a big amount of output from your pickup, and it will be most likely the best way to get a great distortion tone with a lot of feedback and crazy different types of noises in there, unless you have a noise suppressor or anything like that. So for the more bluesy and jazzy and you know kind of that kind of stuff, I would suggest you go ahead with a lower output pickup, kind of like let's say somewhere between 8 and 10K or something like that. Most people don't really know about this. They think as long as you're running mahogany body, mahogany neck, maybe with a maple top on there, maybe with a ebony fretboard, that's the best thing you can have. Well, I don't think so, even though there is some good material out there and is very good for good sustain. You know, ebony is a very hard wood and will also help to make a good amount of sustain in there. But when it comes to what kind of tone you get out from your guitar, that is mostly on what type of pickups you got there. So also the string length, whether you have a 648 millimeter or 628 millimeters, as the Gibsons uses in most cases 628 millimeters scale. And the Stratocasters, the Fender right there, and the Squier right there is actually using 648 millimeters. So that's also something to keep in mind. Well, you don't need to know this, but I'm trying to tell you what is where you got your tone from, and that's a little bit what's in between the strings, so to speak, and the pickups. So whether you go into a music store and looking for a new guitar, it doesn't really matter if it costs $250 or it costs $5,000, because you can still need to swap for another type of pickups. And most of the time you don't really like the tone from the guitar. You think, this is not mahogany, and that's why you don't want to buy it, because it doesn't sound right. That's actually not the truth. That's not the case, because the guitar, even though it's not mahogany, it can still sound awesome, but if you're swapping out for another type of pickups. So I know there has been a lot of people going to say that I'm wrong about this, but I am not wrong. This is actually 100% how it is. The tone from your guitar does not really have a lot to do with what type of wood there is in the guitar. If we are talking acoustic guitars, yes, but now we are talking solid guitar with pickups in there, a solid piece of wood. So I mean, back in the days, guitars were even made out of plywood and all that kind of shit, and they sounded awesome. I mean, look at the Gibson Les Pauls back in the 70s, using this kind of, I guess you didn't know really that they were using plywood and all that kind of stuff back in the 70s, and maybe even longer, unless there was a Gibson Les Paul custom, because they were made out of mahogany most of the times. But most other Les Pauls was actually made out of plywood, light material, balsa wood, so to speak. So yeah, and the tone is awesome, totally awesome. If you're thinking about buying, if you're telling your friends that you're buying a guitar that is made out of plywood, they will probably tell you that you are a total maniac. Or maybe you're totally crazy and you don't know a shit about what you're talking about. But you can tell them to fuck off, and I mean, great guitars. I mean, it doesn't really matter what type of wood you have in there. Even though I personally prefer mahogany body and mahogany neck, because, not because really about the tone, but because of the density and, you know, the sustain in all the guitar. I mean, just not plugging the guitar in, but put a new fresh strings on there and just take some chords, and you can feel the whole guitar is kind of like vibrating, because the tone is running all through the guitar. You know, that's a good guitar. So this was just a little tiny video in 15 minutes here, just telling you what it's all about when it comes to the tone that is running from the output jack of your guitar, and what is causing the sound from your amplifier. That is mostly what's in your cavity in the guitar. There you have your pickups. That's what matters most of the time. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any, you know, questions about this or anything like that, just write me a comment down below here in the comment box. If you are not subscribed to my channel, I would be very happy if you go ahead and press the subscribe button down here, and I will subscribe back to you, and I will make a new video soon. Until next time, take care now. Bye bye then. Oh shit, I gotta get out of here. Fuck off.